doesn't get much more beautiful than this. I'm in the middle of a very large sphagnum bog in north central Wisconsin. And today, of all the words I thought about teaching about, adaptation came to mind. And I can't come up with a more perfect example than this. One of my favorite plants. Oh, there's some sort of animal running around. Anyway, this is a pitcher plant, a northern pitcher plant. And if you can look down here, you'll see that there's traps. And the reason that this plant has traps is because it's adapted to live in areas that have very, very low levels of nutrients. So this plant is just growing on literally a mat of floating moss on top of really acidic water. The mat is floating such that I have fallen through multiple times straight into the water. But this plant does just fine here. It's a beautiful plant, and the way it gets its nutrients is by capturing, trapping, and digesting insects. And this pitcher plant does this in a really cool way. So what it does is it has a little lip right here on the edge, and that has nectar all over it. Insects are attracted to this. So let's say an ant walks up, drinks the nectar, and first it's enjoying itself, and then all of a sudden it's just kind of like, whoo, a little too much nectar, and it falls into the trap. Well, when it falls in, it's very slick, so it has no purchase. And when it does get purchase on the walls leading into the pit of water at the bottom, there's downward pointing hairs, and it tries to crawl up past the hairs, but it can't. You know, they're all pointing down. Well, eventually it tires itself out, falls into the pit of water, and there, the plant has released digestive juices, kind of like those found in our stomach, to digest and absorb the nutrients from the ant or whatever insect falls in. How cool is that? And that's where this plant gets most of its nutrients. But let's look at another part of this plant and another example of adaptation this plant has. See the flowers? The plant itself is way down here. The flowers are way up here. And so it's adapted to not catch the insects that are pollinating it. Insects come in, like bees, pollinate the flowers, go to other flowers in the bog, and never even interact with the traps. So there's a few other carnivorous plants here that I want to show you. So let's see what else we can find. So earlier, I told you about pitcher plants and how they're adapted to live in this nutrient-poor environment. But I never actually defined adaptation. So adaptation basically means how a plant or animal is able to live in a certain area. And I found something really, really cool. It's another type of carnivorous plant with a totally different method of capturing and digesting insects. And it's called a roundleaf sundew. And it's very hard to see from where you are because they're very small. But essentially, they are these little tentacle-laden rosettes of plant. And each tentacle, or each plant, has a series of little round discs. And the discs are covered with sticky tentacles. They're bright red. So if you're a fly, you're flying there. And a fly, or a gnat or mosquito, lands on these discs, and the tentacles stick to it. Now at first, it's able to kind of move itself around and sort of get away. But the more tentacles it touches, the more the slime of the tentacles coats the insect. And before it knows it, the insect is trapped forever. By this point, the tentacles begin to curl around the insect, and digestive enzymes are secreted by the plant. And before it knows it, the insect is digested while still alive. Not a pleasant way to go. Hopefully no one ever discovers giant sundews growing anywhere. But this mat of moss is just coated in sundews, and the reason it's coated in sundews is that this mat of moss has almost no nutrients. So you see this plant here, I don't even know what this is, but it's growing here. But other than that, it's pretty much sundews and pitcher plants. And they're adapted to live in this harsh environment. You can see there's no trees, there's no normal plants that we associate with wetlands elsewhere in the Midwest or even in the United States. It's just kind of these strange oddities. So there's one particular type of sundew that grows here that I've never seen. It's actually the only sundew I've never seen in the United States. So I've been looking very hard, and hopefully we find it. Hopefully we find it before every horsefly in Wisconsin finds me. I think about half already have. So let's keep looking.